Welcome to Metro Talk. I'm Kent Scheffel. Thanks for being with us. Mike Walters, the Executive Director of the Southwestern Illinois Employers Association, is here. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Kent. Glad to be here.
And Jim Schrader, the publisher of the Telegraph, is alongside. Welcome, Jim.
He says thank you. You can tell he's a guest.
You're still waiting for that first big paycheck.
The rest of us is like, okay, let's get it over with.
Jim, we talked in the past about the pros and cons of the Legislative Scholarship Program, but we've got kind of a new twist today. Now Governor Quinn has used his amendatory veto powers to basically eliminate the program. However, House Speaker Michael Madigan says that Quinn may be overstepping his boundaries with that amendatory veto. The bottom line is, will Quinn's veto stand up?
Probably not. As much as a show of power, I think this was on Governor Quinn's part, it probably was a watch me slap these guys in the legislature around a little bit. It's been looked at many, many times before, and this is a pretty generous perk for a lot of these senators and representatives. It's not like there's a lot of search goes into the most indigent or the most deserving student in their individual districts. More times than not, it's a political favor for some good soldier somewhere. And I don't mean soldier as in armed forces. I mean some good Republican soldier or some good Democratic soldier whose kid needs a leg up. Many times, it's someone that's tied to a legislative aide, or it's somebody that's related to somebody. And I think in this particular case, Quinn said, "Look, we're gonna abolish these things because times are tight in the state of Illinois. We're billions of dollars in the red. We are not paying our bills, and we are not even paying our bills that we owe to the colleges and universities that we expect to eat this expense." That's one of the things that we should point out. It's not like if someone gets a tuition scholarship from an elected official to go to Lewis and Clark Community College, it's not like Lewis and Clark Community College gets a check from the state. No. You're supposed to carry that person, and that's another one of those little perks because you get state funding. I think Quinn, both in a fiscal measure trying to save some money, and secondly as kind of a slap at the legislature for not handing these out to the most deserving students, thought, okay, we'll just abolish them. Do I think his veto will stand? No, I think this is one of those perks that Mike Madigan and others are going to say, you can't take that away from us. That's the legislative branch's job, and we're going to reinstate them, so there's nothing you can do about it. As we have talked about before, I think there ought to be some type of a committee made up of anybody other than elected officials that go through these applications and then decide we're going to give out one scholarship per Senate district and one scholarship per House district. But the potential politics and favoritism would totally be taken out of the mix at that time. That's not going to happen either, because that's a rule change that's going to have to be authorized by the legislature. And this is a perk. This is a reward for good soldiers, and they're not going to let it go away.
Is it going to be a legal issue, or is it going to be a matter of the governor and the House Speaker just not seeing eye to eye and seeing which one has the most clout in moving this forward?
Well, if it's which one has the most clout, we all know which one has the most clout, and it's Speaker Madigan, and has been weathered through several governors. Thank you very much. My suspicion is, as the legislative branch makes the laws and sets the rules, it will have to go through the legislature. So therefore, they probably without a problem will have the votes to overturn the veto, and Quinn just gets put back in his place one more time.
Mike, Governor Quinn has used an amendatory veto to wipe out the legislative scholarships. House Speaker Michael Madigan says the governor may have overstepped his bounds. Will the amendatory veto stand?
That's a good question. I gotta say, it's whatever Mike Madigan wants. If Mike Madigan wants to override this, he can do it. Now, this is a little bit more of a dangerous issue than it was in the past. With the tax increases just being passed, you do have, and you do hear people talking about this, as this is a perk that shouldn't be there anymore. That they're as Jim said, they're not giving them to the proper people. They're giving them to as perks to friends, family members, people that have helped them out in the past, and that's not what they were intended for. Now, Jim brought up about the committees. There are several legislators that do actually have committees that will go in and they will look at applications and they will appoint it to what they feel is a proper person. Unfortunately, that's few and that's far in between. Right now, this is a battle between Mike Madigan and Governor Quinn. I think Governor Quinn probably should have taken a lesson from Governor Blagojevich and Governor Ryan, who both went up against Mike Madigan, and as we all know, neither one of those two are in office anymore. Mike Madigan is still there. Mike Madigan will be there as long as he wants to be there. I think this issue is a little hotter than it used to be, though, just because of this tax increases, and I do think this may be a battle that Quinn might be able to win. However, I think if it goes before the Supreme Court, many people feel Mike Madigan owns 4 of the judges. And how many votes do they need? They need 4. So if it does go that way, I believe Madigan will win. I think if they go back to the legislators, there's a chance some legislators may vote not to overturn the veto.
Not overturn, even though the House Speaker may want it just to be able to show the governor who's boss?
Well, the Republicans don't care. They don't care that Mike Madigan wants to show who's the boss. What the Republicans want to do what's right. They realize they have the Democrats behind the 8 ball with this tax increase vote, and now if they go ahead and vote to override this, then that's just another what they believe to be an egg in their basket to use against the incumbents.
We need to take a break. We'll have more Metro Talk right after this.
Hi, I'm Audrey Lucchese, and I'm from Alton, Illinois. I love music, and that's why I came to Lewis & Clark. It's been an amazing experience here at Lewis & Clark, working with students that are so talented, coming from all over the area, and they work so hard to follow their dreams. The music faculty at Lewis & Clark they're fantastic, and they're there every step of the way to push you to follow your dreams. One of the unique opportunities that I have had at Lewis & Clark is being able to record my own music with a fellow student here. Being able to record our music has opened doors for us in the music industry. My long-term goal is to finish here at Lewis & Clark and then to transfer to a 4-year school and finish my degree in music performance. I would recommend Lewis & Clark to another student because it is definitely a great place to get started and it can open so many doors for you.
Big dreams and good grades aren't enough to get into college. There are actual steps you need to take. Finding someone who can help is the first and most important. For the next steps, go to knowhowtogo.org.
Watching Metro Talk, I'm Kent Scheffel. Jim Schrader and Mike Walters are here. Mike, a story by the Associated Press says Illinois is now the worst among the states when it comes to being a deadbeat and owing money for bills. The AP is putting it now at about $5 billion that the state owes. Some of those bills going back to 2010. Are we ever going to get out of this? And if you had a business, would you extend credit to the state?
No, I would not extend any credit to this state, especially with the people that are in charge. The people who are in charge have been there for 9 years. We went from a $5 billion deficit up to 15. Now they're closer to 8. And the only thing they've done to take care of that is throw more taxes on the backs of the hardworking people in the state of Illinois. Interesting article I read from Tim Bloomer. It was titled, "Unlike Wisconsin and Ohio, the Democrat," and this is a quote, "deadbeat state gets little media attention." And that's really, if you watch national, I'm not going to say local, the Telegraph has done a wonderful job of keeping up on the debt of the state, but if you watch the national media, they don't talk about how bad Illinois is. Several reasons. Obviously, we are run by a certain party, and our president happens to come from this state also. So we don't see a lot of advertisement about how poor we are at paying our bills. But if we went back 12 years ago and had the same number of workers then, now that we did then, we would be bringing in, before the income tax raise, $2 billion a year. So you go ahead and do the math, $2 billion a year, we had a $15 billion deficit. Without having to raise taxes, we would not have the deficit. Unfortunately, we have people in charge.
Explain that to me now. Wait a minute.
It was 12 years ago, we had 700 to 800,000 more jobs. If we had those jobs today, we would have been bringing in over $2 billion. Today it'd be well over $2 billion, but even 2 years ago when the research was done, it was $2 billion a year. Each year, back to 12 years ago. So let's say it's probably been $1 billion 10 years ago. But if you add up all that additional money that would have been coming into the state over the last, let's say, 10 years, we wouldn't have a deficit. Unfortunately, the people in charge right now passed a tax increase but did nothing to cut the spending. They did nothing. And if you look at what they did in Wisconsin, you look what they did in Ohio. They made some of the public employees pay a little bit more for their insurance and pay a little bit more for their retirement. They're all of a sudden, they're out of the red, they're in the black. There are some school districts in Wisconsin that had a $2 million deficit. When they passed this new law that had the teachers pay a little bit more into their insurance, and they were able to get away from the I would say the Wisconsin Education Association insurance and go out and buy on the market insurance. They went from a $1.6 million deficit to a $400,000 surplus in 1 year. All because teachers paid a little bit more and they were able to go to different insurances. The state of Illinois won't even look at any of these types of ideas. They want to look at, let's go after businesses. They're the problem with the state. We need to look at how can we bring businesses in here. And how do you bring businesses in here? You give them incentives. Not, if you hire somebody, we'll give you $2,500 on a person that you're going to be paying $100,000. That's not an incentive to bring jobs here. We have jobs that are wanting to leave. Sears wanted to leave. Caterpillar wanted to leave. And why aren't they? Because they were exempted from the taxes. There's a group up in Springfield, or up in Chicago, investors, and they're looking at leaving, which would be a net loss of 3,000 jobs if you include all the businesses that work with them. That's what's wrong with the state of Illinois. We're exporting jobs when we should be importing jobs. Once we get some individuals in there, and we do have some in there, believe it or not, on both sides of the aisle, that believe that we have to bring in jobs. If we'd let them do the talking rather than some of the leaders, then we could get out of this debt. But as it is right now, with the leadership we have, I don't see that we'll be getting out of this anytime soon.
Jim, a story by the Associated Press that ran in the Telegraph says that Illinois owes $5 billion, some of that going back to 2010. Are we ever going to see this debt go away? And you, as a publisher of the paper, would you sell advertising to the state of Illinois?
Well, unfortunately, by law, we do sell advertising to the state of Illinois in a case of legal notices that have to run in the state. The most prominent of which that maybe the viewers will recognize is anytime there's an election coming up, a statewide election, The state has to run in newspapers the specimen ballot, what we commonly know as the specimen ballot. And that lists all of the candidates for statewide position. It is a legal notice that is paid for, obviously by the taxpayers. In the election of 3 years ago, 2008, it took 9 months for the newspapers in the state to be paid for those fees. As a matter of fact, the Illinois Press Association, that serves as the agent, basically we had to carry that expense on the books, or carry that deficit on the books for 9 months until the state finally got around to reimbursing all of the newspapers across the state for this specimen ballot. Associated Press has been working on this story for several months. There was a kind of a request went out to all member newspapers several months ago saying, we're trying to personify the idea of the bills that are back paid, are past due. We're looking for the impacts on small businesses. We're looking for the impacts on not nameless, faceless agencies, but people that they can say, oh yeah, I know him, or oh yeah, I've been to his pharmacy, or oh yeah, my mom was in that nursing home, or whatever. It's been a wonderful and informative series of articles. When you're talking about countywide, for example, the state owes Madison County $19.4 million, much of which goes back quite some time. They owe almost $19 million to St. Clair County, even to small Macoupin County. They owe Macoupin County $2.3 million. Now, I'm small by comparison, okay, so this is all relative. This doesn't count the schools that are owed money. So these are all government agencies. Then you talk to the pharmacies. Then you talk to the healthcare providers. There's a ambulance service in Peoria that's about to go out of business because the state owes them so much money. Just this past Friday, we had a story in the Telegraph about the Thomas Boyd Hospital in Carrollton, where the employees' paychecks were bouncing because the state owed Thomas Boyd Hospital so much money that they couldn't cover payroll. They got an influx of money last week when the state paid their September 2010 past due balance, and they were able to make these bad checks good. That's the type of abuse that's going on in Springfield, which prompted our editorial yesterday, which said the first people that ought to go without paychecks are not the small providers, are not the Thomas Boyd Hospital's nurses and staff. It ought to be the legislators. Cut their payoff. Cut the payoff for every elected official, anybody who has a hand in balancing this budget, cut them off. Sorry, you don't get paid until you do your job, and you're not doing your job right now, which is to balance the budget and make sure these people, your constituents, are getting paid.
We need to take a break. We've got more Metro Talk right after this.
Hello and welcome to the Lewis and Clark Minute. Today we're going to check out the radio broadcasting program in WLCA with Mike Lemons.
Have you ever listened to your favorite radio station or your favorite disc jockey and say, you know, I could do that? Or maybe you're the type of person who says, I could never do something like that. Well, with the help of first-year mass comm student John, we're going to show you just how easy it is. Each voice intro starts with talking about the band that just played, and we add a station identifier. Next, you want to offer some information that may be of interest to your audience. And finally, tell the listeners what the next song is, who sings it, followed by another station identifier. John will do one live now.
Silver Sun Pickup substitution on WLCA. The Big Pink released their debut album called A Brief History of Love. The single is off that album. It's The Big Pink with Dominoes. It's on College Radio's Best 89.9.
This has been your Lewis and Clark Minute.
What's that? I don't know. Something I kind of made. Ooh, what's it do?
What do I do? Well, thanks for asking. I ring my bell and I like to dance. What do I do? Well, thanks for asking.
Ow! Yeah, it still needs a little work.
Anything's possible. Keep thinking. Get started on your own inventions or just play some games at inventnow.org.
Sounds like you could use some Van Gogurt. It's fortified with arch-rich nutrients to improve your math and reading skills. Catch!
Van Gogurt, thanks. So what's the deal with your ear?
Always with the ear, huh?
Feed your kids the arts. For 10 simple ways to learn how, visit AmericansForTheArts.org.
Welcome back to Metro Talk. I'm Ken Scheffel. Jim Schrader and Mike Walters are here. Jim, the Missouri House unknowingly approved a non-binding resolution that basically took a shot at the Boeing Corporation, and with the resolution endorsing a fighter jet made by Lockheed Martin. Is it a problem that lawmakers approved this resolution without knowing what was in it?
Boy, is my face red. Imagine what we're talking about. Okay, we've got Boeing that has a huge operation in St. Louis, and some little out-of-state legislator, and by his own admission, was asked by one of his constituents to endorse this Lockheed fighter because somehow or another this guy was tied in with supplying parts to Lockheed. So if this legislator would endorse the Lockheed fighter, this constituent might get some contract for parts or somewhere down the road. So the individual introduced the language, it passed, and then all of a sudden everybody went, oops, Boeing may be upset by this. Boeing that, oh, by the way, just announced plans to build a new factory in South Carolina. We might have had some of those jobs in Missouri, except we're endorsing a competitor. What's doubly ridiculous about that is this representative, and I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, and I didn't write it down, I'm sorry. The legislator that introduced the legislation has a Boeing supply factory in his region, in his district. And because some constituent said, hey, endorse this Lockheed, as it's beyond fathomization here. It's one more instance, as we've talked about so many times before, of people in legislators in Missouri State or Illinois State or Washington, D.C., voting because somebody asked them to. They have no idea what's in the bill. They have no idea what the language is that's inserted. Somebody asks them, I'll trade you this vote on this one, if you'll trade me this vote on this one, and these deals are done in the back room all the time. You have a representative who admitted the language was for a friend, and now he's red-faced.
Mike, we've got the Missouri legislature that approved a non-binding resolution that basically supported Lockheed Martin's fighter jet over Boeing's fighter jet. Is it a problem that lawmakers didn't realize what they were voting for?
Well, in my field, I understand, or I see this every day. There's a great book written by Senator H.L. Richardson. He was from California in the 1970s. The book's title is What Makes You Think We Read These Bills? And that's exactly what happens. The great story in there, Senator was up and he was really railing on a bill, telling everybody how bad the bill was. And sometimes they go on for 30, 40 minutes, but 10 minutes into it, his assistant is down pulling on his coat, trying to get his attention. He says, excuse me. He goes, what? You're co-sponsor of that bill, Senator. Without missing a beat, the senator looks up, looks right at the people and says, now these are the reasons why people will tell you this is a bad bill. Let me tell you why all these reasons are wrong. And he went into why that was such a good bill. They don't read the bills. People that sponsor the bills don't read the bills. I mean, Nancy Pelosi, we have to pass this bill to know what's in it. They don't know what's in the bills. The way a bill usually will come about is you will have a business, an individual, an association that needs something. They will go to a legislator and ask them to sponsor it. The legislator will say, what do you want in the bill? They'll take the notes, and then they will send a staff down to get a bill written up. The bill comes back. Very rarely do the legislators read the bill or what's in the bill. They get up and they start talking. The problem is the staff should know what's in the bill and should inform them before they walk out on the floor. I mean, they should know. If it's my bill, I should know it, but the staff had better be ready to answer any questions and help the person out. And in this instance, probably was a gentleman that probably didn't realize what he did. And they don't. I had a bill where a senator from the southern part of the state, he was going in to pass it, and he was on a board down in his region, and this bill was going to almost close the facility that he was on a board. And nobody could get him to stop it. And I went up and I just said, Senator, this is going to affect this facility. I know you're going to call that bill. Please hold it off till tomorrow. Read the bill. Check. Call this facility. Well, he did, and he found out, you know what, Mike, you were right. That would have closed these facilities, and I had no idea. It happens all the time up in Springfield. It happens out in Washington. And even worse is when it passes out of the Senate or it passes out of the House and it goes over to the next chamber. Whoever picks up that bill, they really don't have any idea what's in it because it's really not their bill. They're picking it up to help their friend over in the House or the Senate. This happens all the time. You do have instances sometimes where the person that has you write the bill doesn't tell you the full truth. And sometimes they'll go in and write the bill and then hand it to the senator or the representative. And that's probably what happened in this instance. And the poor guy, I shouldn't say poor guy, do your job, read the bill, know what you're testifying to, and know what's in it. But it happens more times than anybody here would even imagine.
Just kind of representative of what we're talking about here. We talked a couple of weeks ago when Governor Quinn vetoed the so-called smart grid technology for Ameren and Commonwealth Edison that would automatically raise their rates and give them continuing rate increases for the next 5 years, an influx of money ostensibly to build their infrastructure, but he vetoed it in part because they wouldn't have to justify their rates. They would have automatic rate increases built in for the next 5 years, regardless of their cost of operation or how much profit they were making. You asked at that time, did you think the veto would be overturned? And I said, I don't know, there's going to be a lot of cash flying around. There's an Associated Press story that came out today. In just that 2 weeks' time, Ameren has donated $164,000 in additional campaign funds to the people that are going to be voting on that veto bill. That answers your question.
That's going to do it for this edition of Metro Talk. Thanks for being with us. Jim Schrader, the publisher of The Telegraph, has been here, along with Mike Walters, the executive director of the Southwestern Illinois Employers Association. I'm Kent Scheffel. We'll see you next time.